Well, wonderful. It's so great to see such a global audience today. If you haven't yet already introduced yourself in the chat, please feel free to do so. So glad to see people from so many places around the Pacific. Melissa, it's a few minutes after the hour. Could I invite you to do our introduction?
Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this part 4 of our series, Teaching in Virtual Environments. My name is Melissa Withers. I see so many familiar faces, names. Welcome back. I am at home sick today, so I'm keeping my camera off, but I am here. So why don't we go ahead and get started. So this is the first of a 3-part series, as you can see on the slide there. Today is connecting classroom teaching to the real world. And we have 2 fantastic presenters. And then we will have a second session on May 19th, 20th, depending on where you are in the world. And then finally on June 2nd or 3rd. So this is part 4. For those who are interested in a certificate of participation, once we complete the 3 parts, we will automatically send those out. It takes, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks to get them ready, but we will send those out, so we are keeping track. So let me tell you a tiny bit about the APRU Global Health Program. I'll type in the link to our website. The APRU stands for Association of Pacific Rim Universities, and the Secretariat is based in Hong Kong. It's a nonprofit network of now 58 universities in the Asia Pacific region. I am the director of the Global Health Program, which is hosted by the University of Southern California. We've been around for, since 2007. And we have a number of activities, including this teaching series. We have an annual conference coming up. The theme is urban health in November. We do some distance education courses, some other student competitions. So I would encourage you to check out our website at apruglobalhealth.org. But tonight we are here to learn and share from each other about teaching in virtual environments. So let me go ahead and introduce our facilitators for today. Our faculty experts are Eleanor Vandegrift from the University of Oregon and Adik Wibowo from the University of Indonesia. So Ellie Vandegrift is the program director for Global Science Education Initiatives at the Division of Global Engagement at the University of Oregon. She's trained as an ecologist and has taught university-level life science courses, led STEM educational professional development programs, and supported curricular and pedagogical reform to make science interesting, engaging, and relevant to improve students' learning experiences. She has facilitated many STEM education and communication workshops with US and global partners and has received 4 university and national pedagogy awards and is the author of several articles about STEM education reform and professional development. You can check out her bio and her social media on the website. She is our leader every week, so many of you know her. But tonight we are delighted to welcome our next facilitator. Our faculty expert for tonight is Adik Wibowo, who holds an MD, MPH, DRPH, and she is full professor in public health at the Universitas Indonesia. She is among the pioneer of the public health establishment in Indonesia and has held many important positions, including joining the WHO Southeast Asia Regional Office in New Delhi, India, for 7 years and then was promoted to acting WHO representative for Nepal and then for Myanmar. So she has dedicated almost 15 years to the WHO. And now she has back in Indonesia and resumed her duties as a senior researcher and senior lecturer. In 2017, she founded the Global Health Initiative Indonesia at the Faculty of Public Health at UI, which soon will become a major, which will have a major in global health for the master's students. She has published 5 public health books and, of course, numerous research publications. So she has a wealth of experience in our topic today, which is connecting classroom teaching to the real world. Thank you so much to both of you for joining today and for sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for that lovely introduction. So nice to see all of you this morning, this evening, depending on where you are in the world. Our goals for this workshop series are to provide pedagogical, technological, and teaching support, peer support to faculty across the APRU network who are teaching remotely. And we're really pleased that we've expanded beyond the APRU network as well. Excuse me. We're also here to create opportunities for APRU affiliated faculty to connect and share resources and experiences. I think that a year into the pandemic, we're continuing to find all of the ways that our work overlaps and the connections that we share. Today, our topic in terms of thinking about connecting students to the real world with their work might take the place in some of these words. These might be words that you're familiar with. Thinking about first-year experiences or belonging or problem solving or critical thinking, all of those things can go into our topic as we think about how we help students make connections. Our format today will include approximately 30 minutes of expert panel contributions where we will share some of our personal experiences. And then 30 minutes of small group discussion in the breakout rooms, and then approximately 30 minutes back in the large group for discussion. This session is being recorded, and we do put the videos of the previous recordings along with the slides on the APRU website. It's at the same website where you went to register. After this workshop, you'll be able to see the video. Give us a few hours to make sure that it's downloaded and we can get it up on the website. In our session today, we'll use the Zoom chat. Thank you for already testing that out. I have one polling question that we're going to try later today. We'll spend some time in breakout rooms. You have all found your audio and video controls, I can see. Lots of people are muted and have their videos off. But when we go into our breakout rooms, if you're in a place where you can, please feel free to turn your audio and video on. And if there's notes that you want to take about this experience, go ahead and grab pen and paper and write down anything that occurs to you. In the chat, if you could take a minute and answer this question: how do you provide opportunities for students to connect your class content to the real world? Okay, both Melissa and Vivian have typed in case studies. Vivian's are a little bit more specific about real patients. Sheba writes about discussing relevant issues. Terry looks at publications that are studying the same questions or concepts. It just jumped for me. Flory writes scenarios. Maria, Elizabeth, using their own experiences. Liana, problems based in real life situations. More case studies. Judith writes about application of learned in the actual setup or environment. Joan writes contextualize the subject to real life case studies. I'm going to jump down as they come in. Angelita writes maximizing personal sharings of experience and asking for real examples from students. Jocelyn also writes documentary video of a real situation. And Jane has the students interview teachers online. Great. Great. So lots of really tangible examples there of how you are already connecting your content to the real world. So in my part today, I'm going to share some classroom examples. And first, I want to ground us in a little bit of theory. And this theory comes from two publications. The first is from the National Academies Press, a publication which is now 9 years old, but it was called Education for Life and Work, Developing Transferable Knowledge and Skills for the 21st Century. And the second is this book by Ambrose and colleagues called How Learning Works, which sets forth 7 principles for smart teaching, is what they call it. Between these two articles, these two books, there are 7 ways that we can, as instructors, help our students transfer the knowledge that they're learning in our classrooms outside of our classrooms. The first is to provide multiple and varied representation of the content. So there's some examples on the screen. They might talk about something, they might discuss it, they might listen to it, they might write about it. Today in our webinar, you will have multiple opportunities to engage with the content through expert presentations, through small group discussion, and through large group discussions, as an example. The second is to provide opportunities for consolidation and elaboration. So that means that you give students opportunities to take what they're learning in the classroom, put it in their own words, and put it into a new context. A case study is a great way to do this. The third that allows for transfer are explicit connections to real life examples. Many of you wrote about that also with your case studies or asking students to bring in their personal experience. These are pictures from a colleague who was doing forensic science, and they would actually take students out to places that had been part of some sort of accident or create them on their own to look at the impact so that students could have that firsthand experience. The fourth is to set high expectations that challenge your students, that cognitively challenge them, but not just giving them the task and then walking away, giving them a lot of scaffolding so that students can see how the elements fit together to build the entire house. The fifth is to provide intentional prompts to connect the new content with prior knowledge. So again, this builds on number 4, expecting them to do good work, but helping students to see how what they're learning applies to something else that they may know from their past experience. If you think about this in terms of doing a field placement, this would be in that field placement connecting to the content that you've learned in the class, or in a higher level class connecting to what a student has learned in an introductory class. The sixth is to provide students for opportunities with practice, lots of practice, where they also receive feedback, and you receive feedback through formative assessment. The picture here shows an example of students using a clicker question in class to get feedback about whether they understand the material or not. And then lastly, building in time for reflection and metacognition. In our workshops together with you, we always at the end ask a question somewhere around what will you take from this workshop and apply to your own teaching? And that's an example of building in a reflection question to help you think about how you can transfer what we're learning here into your own teaching life. Okay, so the 7 principles here, again, from these 2 publications. To me, this helps frame a lot of the teaching that I do. How do I want students to take what they're learning and experiencing with me and put it into the real world? So I'm going to put this into context just a little bit and think about some of the evidence-based ways that we can also create experiences for students that build in lots of knowledge that use these principles. Capstone experiences at the end of their time together, community-based learning, course-based undergraduate research experiences, learning communities, off-campus study programs, and project-based learning are all examples. Adik is going to talk about project-based learning, and I think it also overlaps with community-based learning, the content that she'll talk about with her time at WHO. I'm going to take just a couple more minutes and share one more type of pedagogy with you that fits into this umbrella, and this is reacting to the past. So I have a question, and I'm going to run a quick poll for you. Oh, the poll is not working. Quinn, do you see the poll as I launch it? It's not going to work. Okay, I'm not going to do that real time. If you would like in the chat to put an answer to this A, B, C, or E, how familiar are you with reacting to the past? A is I'm not familiar with it. B is I've heard of it. C is I'm familiar with some of the games. D, I've attended a workshop. Or E, I've been a game master. Go ahead and put A, B, C, D, or E in the chat. Great. I am seeing a lot of A's. A lot of people are not familiar with reacting to the past. A handful have heard of it. And I saw one person that's gone by who's attended a reacting to the past workshop. Excellent. This is exciting that you'll all leave today having heard of reacting to the past. Reacting to the past are a series of games. They're very elaborate games, learning experiences that are set in historical time periods. So some of the ones here are about Athens on the threshold of democracy. There's a French Revolution game. There's an American Constitutional Convention game, for example, a revolution in Mexico, Frederick Douglass, and slavery in the US. These games take students and they each take a role. So the students have a role that they play set in the historical time, and they're based on real characters. Students learn how to speak in their character's role, they learn how to write, and they have to come to some sort of resolution. So the game that I have used most recently is called Food or Famine in 2002. And this is the debate over genetically modified crops in Southern Africa. And I have a helper right now. My daughter has decided to come in and say hi. So I'm sorry if I'm a little bit distracted, but I'm going to ask you. Thank you. All right. After this is over, I have to go spend some time with my kids. So games are set in historical time periods. In this classroom, my students are playing leaders of Southern African nations. They're playing leaders from EU, from the USA, and from nonprofit organizations, non-governmental organizations, and there's also UN representatives in this game. And they were trying to decide whether or not 5 nations in Southern Africa should accept corn from the United States that was genetically modified. And if they did, then they could no longer have their trade agreements with the EU. So these are games that are based on real historical experiences that had real consequences for the people. So in this particular game, my students learned about science of genetically modified organisms. They learned about the complexities of food systems, and they learned about the complexity of international politics. These are things I could have talked about, but by being immersed in the game, they have a much greater experience. Reacting is amazing. There are games that cover history, which is where it started, but I teach biology, and there's other STEM games and everything in between. All right, so that's my big picture thought. We want students to transfer the knowledge that they are learning, and in this case, part of what they're transferring is how to public speak and how to write. One last thought, lots of big picture skills, global perspectives, and faculty, it's fun to teach this way. Faculty have really inclusive pedagogy, they have increased enjoyment, and there's context for the content. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Adik now to talk about project-based learning in the WHO. Let me know when you want me to switch slides.
Okay, I can use my slides then. Can you give me the share screen? Okay, it's already there. Thank you. I will use this one. Good morning, everybody. This started when I started communicating with Melissa about a few weeks ago, and I told her that I work for WHO as a full-time staff at the United Nations for almost 15 years. And then I was thinking, when I look at the topic of today, I feel that had I, been able to turn the time machine, I would like to have all of these in my classroom. But let us see about this. Okay. Number two, I should say that it's very much on the WHO. So I didn't touch base on other disciplines, but it's more toward what I have experienced in this big organization. And I think that can also be applied to another UN agencies as well under the UN system. Thank you, Ellie. Can we move? Yeah, I think Ellie has beautifully already explained in her slides, but I saw one article which is from the classroom to real world. I didn't put the name of this article here because it takes the space of the slides. But what I learned is actually there are so many methods, so many processes that we can go to bring our students to the real world. But there is also some sequences. And that article, they say that first, perhaps we have to invite experts and then to share experiences. So that means that the student will be a good listener, but there should be also a very active discussion after they know about the situation in the real world. And then we can go to discuss the real cases in the class. Discuss the real cases in the class. I think last week we already experienced when we have this kind of health research ethics, where Melissa beautifully also brought all the case studies, the real case studies that is gathered by WHO. So those are the real cases, but the discussion was still in the class. Number three is already having those kind of experiences of 1 and 2, then we can bring the students to the field trip, because here it says that seeing is believing. And then they can also come back to the class and discuss why in the theory is it so, but why in the real practice it's so. So field trip will be number 3. Number 4 is actually Ellie already mentioned also about role play simulation, about that famine in Africa. We also did some simulation when we did about One Health, because One Health is one of the very difficult subject to understand. So we bring a simulation at the district level, where all the stakeholders, all the actors come together and then debate how can we make One Health at the operational level. And it is, yes, Ellie, it's very alive and students are very heavily involved. After that, we can go to the project-based engagement. And that is one among that, because a lot of organizations, NGOs, they have projects in the countries. And I think this is also one opportunity where we can put our students in that projects. Normally, just to know about what the project is, and then normally they will do such a small activity like data interview or data collection, but that will be very much in their CV, and they will feel their ownership because they belong to this project. After that is the community service. Here, the difference is that in the community service, we are students to lead. We as facilitators, as teachers, we should stay behind. So in the community service, you can do a lot of things. You can put the students there for a few weeks. You can ask them to observe. You can also ask them to participate. So they really come into the real world of getting it into the community emotions, into the community, knowledge. The last one, which is very high level, is the internship. This is really hands-on experience where I put my students for 3 weeks in ASEAN, 3 weeks in WHO. So they work there and also being supervised by a mentor there. This is the last one, and this is also the most complex one. So this is the spider web. And I see, after I work at WHO, I see that the real world experience at WHO can be applied to this spider web, and all the spider web is interconnectable. Okay, further. I only have 3 slides more. This is my pathway actually. And as you can see, I started as being a medical doctor, very clinical person. And then my aim is to become a very rich internal specialist, because that's what we see in our medical school in Indonesia. And then I feel that that's not enough, because I want to help the community. And then I turn it into a public health. So I got my master's, I got my doctorate in public health. And I feel so satisfied, because I have this medical doctor, I have this medicine knowledge, but now I can blend it to the public health. After that, I was invited to work at the WHO. And for 7 years, I become the technical program manager. And this is very much important, because as a technical person, you also have to know more than just only technicality. So it is beyond the technicality. And I will explain a little bit more in my other slide. And then after a few years, I was promoted to become the head of WHO country offices in 2 difficult countries, which is actually Nepal and Myanmar. Here, my life, my entire brain, my entire intuition really changed my world. And this is the pathway that you can see how varied it is. Nowadays, you cannot have a one linearity pathway, but this is the way that now the world treats us. Further. So after I look at my work at WHO, and then I feel that had I be able to turn my time machine, I would like to see what happened in the classroom. So in the classroom, actually, what I reflect, that we have to gain theories as to know the standards, as to know the correct core values, because without knowing that, we cannot know which one is wrong, which one is right. So this is what we have to gain from the classroom. That's why curriculum is heavy. That's why the educational years is also very heavy, because actually the content that is taught is really heavy. And then I learned after I worked for WHO, like I told before, as a technical and program manager, say that you are appointed as a technical program manager for tuberculosis for Southeast Asia countries. You will not be able to work that only if you know only about medicine and tuberculosis or public health and tuberculosis, but you also will be charged, will be asked to do the funding planning. You have to also be asked to do the Gantt chart planning. You will be asked to supervise. You will be asked to evaluate your program. So I think this is not given in the classroom level. And I feel that's why I put that learn about management, that you can seek that not from the classroom, but perhaps from the Google, from the online courses, take a certificate from that, because that counts if you work in the WHO or even in the United Nations system. Number 3 is also learn about culture. Everybody knows, working in the United Nations, working in the WHO, you will work with so many international people. And then if you don't know about the culture, if you don't know about what is right in culture A and what is wrong in culture B, because sometimes it conflicts, then you will be in danger. I have a lot of experience on this when I work in Myanmar, where my technical staff coming from international level, they are immediately being asked by the government to depart from the country. It is really serious. And the last one is also learn about politics. Politics, everybody is scared about this word. What is actually meant by politics? Yes, you should be scared about politics, because politics is very heavy in, it's very heavy when you work in the United Nations. So that's why this three thing, I feel that it cannot be given in the classroom, but perhaps we can find from another methods, from another places, learn about management, learn about culture, learn about politics. And I feel if you have this kind of learning process in these three very important subjects, you will survive. Number 5 is also the soft skill. This is also not given in the classroom. For example, communication that goes into negotiation, advocacy that goes to diplomacy, how to work in a team, how to lead. And I think Ellie has given a very beautiful example about that role play in famine in Africa. That is the place where you practice how to deal with communication, how to deal with advocacy with your colleagues. But again, in the classroom, it's still a hypothetical process. So perhaps the better thing is also you go further up to the internship, where we can deal that in the real situation. And I think this is also the last one, is not given in the classroom, how to develop a sellable curriculum vitae. My students always ask me to do this teaching for 2 sessions about how to create a curriculum vitae in a good way. I should say that in a sellable way. That means that you really have to have an art and skill to write a curriculum vitae. Last one. Next slide, please. The real work at WHO. So I feel that working 15 years in WHO, I start to understand what is meant by collaboration, what is meant by partnership, sustainability, and networking at the global environment. In the classroom, everything is given, but it's really jargon words. But partnership, slowly learning by doing, if you work in the real world, you will feel emotionally, you'll be engaged in how partnership is being done. So it started from the scratch, and then in the end, you will have a very good partner to work with. On the other hand, I also see that in the career pathway, especially during this millennium world, positions can vary. And I think that our students who are so active, who are so energetic, they will not stay in one position. They will always find places where they can go upward in a very good way. And also, that means that they will vary. Their path will not be straightforward. Their path will be not linearity, but perhaps that their path will be also non-linear. And I think that is very important, especially for us who are working in the faculties, where normally in Indonesia, our Minister of Education always say, hey, you have to work according to your linearity. But that is not counted now in this real world. Another one is the need for long life learning. And this is very much given by United Nations. If you work in the United Nations, they will give you a lot of training sections. And then that means that you cannot stop in long life learning. So in summary, knowledge, involvement, experience, that will bring us to a good understanding, ownership, and long-term retention. Up to today, I think. Okay, I think this is the one. Finish. Thank you very much, Ellie.
Thank you. I really love your experiences, and I love how the connections between the classroom and you're so right about those skills that we learn, communication and negotiation, that sometimes in the classroom don't mean as much, and how valuable they are in our daily professional lives, as I'm sure almost all of you on this call can relate to.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. We have some breakout room questions for you. And so the questions that we have here are that what are the benefits and challenges to connecting classroom learning to real world experiences? How do you already connect content beyond the classroom environment. We've shared some of our examples. I look forward to hearing more about the examples that you have within your groups. What skills are needed to solve problems in their future careers that you anticipate that students will have, although many of you may be in careers that you never anticipated. I know that's the case for me. And then finally, what modalities should faculty members have to bring classroom teaching to the real world experiences? So you can think about some of the examples that we shared or even other ideas that you have as well. My colleague Quinn is helping us with the breakout rooms. Quinn, how are we on the breakout rooms?
We are all set to go.
Okay.
Do you want to put the questions, however, in the chat just before I break?
Yes. Thank you. There's the questions in the chat. When you do go into your breakout rooms, if you could please introduce yourselves to each other, share your name and your institution and your department if you want. That's often nice to see the varying disciplines that we have represented here. Within your group, if you could select a facilitator who's going to be the person to keep the conversation going and a timekeeper. Looking at the time, I think we should still do a half an hour in the breakout room, so we'll give you a warning to bring you back. All right, Quinn, if we're ready. And I know that sometimes a couple of people have messaged me that you're not able to go into the breakout rooms today. It's totally understandable. Thanks for letting us know. And so Quinn's going to put us in our breakout rooms. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, morning.
Good morning, good evening. Well, can somebody volunteer to be the timekeeper and somebody else volunteer to be the group facilitator today?
Oh, I'll be the timekeeper.
Thank you, John. Maria Elizabeth, are you able to be the facilitator? Oh, you're muted. Oh, you're muted. Maybe that's the reality of life. Let's see, is it a Nelly? Is that how you say your name?
I can be the timekeeper and sir would be the facilitator.
Okay, John says he'll be
Thanks,
the
Anel.
timekeeper. You can be the facilitator. Go for it.
All
Go for
right.
it. Let's start with introduction.
John? Actually, I was late because of internet connection. That's why, though I got a lot of, I was able to get some important inputs from the sharing. All right, so will that be okay, Sir John? I'll be the timekeeper and you'll be the facilitator.
Oh, I'll be the facilitator. Okay.
All right, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, let's,
thank you.
John, if I might encourage you to start with introductions around with name and institution.
Awesome. Yes.
And I will stay here for a bit and then I'll pop into other groups. So I'll be here and then back.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is John Kirst. I'm a recent graduate from Grand Canyon University, and trying to get plugged into the education field. I just got my doctorate in education and trying to plug in there. Thank you for having me.
Great. So sometimes in these groups, it works really well to throw the ball to the next person who then catches it and then throws it to the next person.
Okay. Well, on my screen, I guess the next person I see is Annalie.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I am Anel Malyari from the Philippines.
Sorry for oh, I think we have to speak in English because they are actually recording us.
Okay.
I'm not recording you. You can, are you speaking whatever you want? I'll go speaking whatever you want.
Mayeli, we saw that you were recording, so we're afraid you will not understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, so we have to speak in English also, ma'am.
We're trying to meet the challenge of doing those
what you would typically do is hands-on experiences and trying to recapitulate that virtually. So they gave a lot of examples of how, you know, like they would do videos and show them to their students, and then their students would have to get very creative, trying to find resources in their own home to video their practicing and bring it back. So I think we spent a lot of time talking about that, and I think it's interesting to think about because obviously their skill set is very hands-on, whereas I teach biology, so our skill set is also very hands-on with the lab experience, and that's where we face the most challenges. And for me, I was able to focus more on, well, let's focus on some other skills for this year during the pandemic. Let's focus on graphing and lab report writing and those kinds of skills. And then let's try to catch you up next year on your hands-on skills, but they didn't have those kinds of choices. And so I think we were working on number 4 when we ended, but we ended up talking about trying to bring those in-person experiences online, how to do that, because they're still faced with going into the next year in the same situation. And then how to do the assessment correctly. So, and again, having the students video what they're doing at home and sending that back to the teacher. And also we kind of got into talking about various forms of assessment for them. So that's kind of where we were.
Great. Thank you, Terry. So Erlinda, you were asking about 2 and 4, the differences here. I heard lots of modalities in that.
Yeah.
So that's fine if your group said, oh, we've already answered this. Of course, that's fine. Thank you, Terry.
But I guess we still try to explore some other modalities, like what we were doing, things like that.
Well, Erlinda, would you be willing to share for your group and share anything
sure.
that's different? I would love to hear anything that's different than what Terry shared.
Yeah. Unless Philip would like to do it for the group. Philip, are you with us, Philip?
Erlinda, go ahead and do it.
I think for me, I think what struck me most was the answers that were given for number 1. Like they were saying that, you know, when you try to put in live experiences of the students, you get to have the students more engaged and more excited in, you know, in trying to share, and you get to hold them because, you know, it's real life. It's veering away from the theory, and it's basically theory and practice together. So it's a praxis thing. And so with that, they get to see the practicality of everything. And in the end, you're able to tool the students with, you're able to tool them with skills that will let them go through life, no? And that basically makes also the teacher, or makes you the facilitator, feeling more fulfilled in the end. It's not just, you know, counting through statistics or numbers, the grades that you give them. I think that was very, very striking, and because you see the meaning and purpose of what they're doing. So that to me was also very extensive. And in the second question, like using simulation activities, using case studies, using research articles to, you know, to let them see, you know, theories with practice, and saying that you need really, at this time of the pandemic, you really need a lot of soft skills, technical skills, communication skills. Like it's basically being more understanding to your students, feeling what they really are going through, and not really very focused on your goal as a teacher or as a facilitator to finish this part of the syllabus or things like that, but basically how you can be more of a nurturing facilitator in the end, because sometimes we get so focused on the content of the syllabus and we want down to, you know, just push through with every session that we have planned for. But I guess what is important in terms of the skills of a faculty, according to Charisma, was we need the soft skills, listening, using all the senses that we can master, and being open. If you have a third ear, a third ear, a third eye, because there are many things that we cannot see our students are going through. So it's very, soft skills are very important for facilitators or faculty members at this time, or academicians at this time. So I guess those were some of the things that, although there are many more, actually what was good also from Annie was using the podcast, like the students become more creative. So she gives exercises or projects that the students use podcast, and then they submit it at the end. So it becomes more engaging and in the process.
Great.
Annie, did I get? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erlinda. Lovely. Adik, would you be willing to share anything different from your group? You had some different types of conversations when I popped in. Oh, you're muted.
We already selected one of the, reporter.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah. Hiba, please, your time.
I thought Kumiko will be the one reporting. Actually, we thought, most of the points we discussed is similar to the other participants just discussed. We were talking about how beneficial it would be for the students if we started to relate that to the real world experience. It will be good for the career, future career, etc. But the challenges will be the first thing is the virtual learning. We have to find different methods, to bring the real world into the class. We cannot go for field trip, etc. And another one is what Dr. Adik point out was sometimes it won't work for all the students, right? We have to find out different formula for different students to bring into the experience of real life. And also, we can ask, if we are relating that to an issue, we can ask the students what is that meant to them. Then we will get more involvement from the students. For example, I teach climate change. So I will always ask them what you can do, right? For your own capacity, based on your own capacity, what you can do. So this kind of questions will make them curious to learn the science. And also, to think about how they can really contribute to the all these problems. Then the soft skill, yes, we discussed about that too. And some of the challenges we discussed was when we have a student, mixture of students, international students and the local students, then the communication become a bit of a problem. So we discuss a lot on the basic communication skill, the importance of learning English, just to communicate. And I think that is the major points that we discussed, right, Dr. Adi? And Kumiko, if you want to add anything more.
Yes, thank you, Shiva. We discussed modalities, and Dr. Adik said very nice things that one of the modality we should be able to have is like we should, as a teacher, like we have to be always one page ahead before going to classroom. So that's the we don't put the students, after their discussion, we don't put them in a situation that's very vague, and so that we can share, give more clear path to by preparing ahead of the whatever the discussion. And then also patience. We have a lot of different students, so that we have to be very patient to students. Maybe different learning styles and stuff. Sorry, maybe I'm making up, Dr. Adik, but we have to be very patient. And I think I added the, what is that? To be fair to the student, or don't want to put them into a bad situation, so that even if they have some ideas that are not correct or right, but how we can value their opinions and then shift their, how do you say, it's very difficult, but always maybe create a comfortable classroom so that people can speak up more, because one of the issues that people in our university, domestic students who cannot speak English well are very afraid of speaking up because they feel like inferior to other students who speak English well, so that they feel uncomfortable to speak up. So that how can we, create inclusive or comfortable environment?
Great, thank you.
I would like to add 30 seconds, one thing, because we also deeply discuss about soft skills. And since Komiko is very expert in teaching communication and negotiation, so on the soft skills, we feel that, okay, we can teach the theory, but also we have to teach the students to be creative, because there is no one size fits all for any situation. So that should go along with the soft skills development. Thank you, Melissa.
Oh, that's
Thank you,
great.
Ellie.
Yeah, said so clearly. I was at a conference once and somebody said, I don't know why we call them soft skills, because they're hard. They're hard to learn. And I really like that, because they are hard to learn. And how do we communicate to our students, and how do we give them opportunities to practice and get feedback? That's part of the skills for transfer that I shared at the beginning, is that it's not just one time. We get to practice these over and over. Wonderful, wonderful. Looking at the time, I think we have time for one more group to share something unique that we haven't heard yet. Is there another group who'd like to share?
I will. Again, some of the challenges, and now I maybe mispronounced your name, I apologize. But one was like the internet struggles during the pandemic itself, both with the internet service was that, and then also the need for computers. And she said her president of her university was able to get the computers to students at a very subsidized, reasonable price so that they can continue to learn. And so that was really nice there. And then also on mobile learning, it's just with the pace of learning, sometimes the struggle, because you don't know how much they are absorbing. It's just the speed of it there. So everybody, real good feedback on my team. But just my little tidbits to add there. Thank you.
Great, thank you, John. Any last thoughts?
Can my group share?
Please do.
Yeah, Michael, I think what you shared about the sense of community that is now important for our classes should be established first thing in class, so that they can help each other. Michael, I think that also amplifies the importance of soft skills and practicing soft skills. Are you there? I just want, or Ariel, can you help me on that?
Lamberto, can you say more about community?
Yeah, okay. There were questions about how we found ourselves having to discover, learning about our weaknesses in terms of connecting to each other, overcoming our, say for example, weakness in math, and new ways to seek help from each other. So I think the basic response to that, now that each of us are somewhat imprisoned in our own homes, is to form a sense of community in our classes. Well, I shared some kind of internet hangouts for for those in particular classes or courses. So at least those are some. Oh, yeah, that's the only thing I would like
Great.
to.
Great, thank you so much. And Michael types in the chat, develop collaborative skills too. So it's certainly a way to practice that. We know a lot of students at our university and in Canadian universities too are using Discord as an app where they'll have 700 students all on Discord and put them in different subgroups so they can talk about the class, but also maybe talk about a health too, or talk about other community-based things. Great. I'm going to share my screen one more time really quickly. We have a question for the chat as a reflection question. Remember, reflection is one of those key things for building transferable skills. I have lost my chat screen. I'm sorry. Here's the chat screen. What's one idea from today that you would like to apply to your own teaching? Why don't you go ahead and type that in the chat, or you can write it on a separate piece of paper. Right, establishing a sense of community. Great. Collaboration, breakout rooms, the spider web. I liked the spider web. Tracy, the slides will be available on our website. Adik, that was a beautiful spider web. I loved that. Relating to the past, Sheba writes, Jane writes, bring a sense of community to the classroom, create supporting groups, making connections. Catherine's going to look up reacting to the past. Please email me with any questions that you have about it. It's so fun. Mary Ann writes, encourage everyone to speak and share. Joan writes about the spider web as well. And Daniel says scenario building. Excellent. Oh, Terry's got reacting to the past, building community, building confidence. Michelle writes the importance of collaboration, especially in the time of the pandemic. Great. Well, I want to remind you that we have 2 more sessions in this part 4 of our teaching in virtual environments. They're every 2 weeks from now until the beginning of June. Yatsui is here today, and he will be the co-presenter with me in 2 weeks about developing learners' practical skills in remote classrooms. And then Melissa and I will co-lead the last session of this series in June, reflecting on this year of virtual teaching. I think we're going to talk about resiliency. We're going to talk about some of the lessons that we've learned, and we'd love to hear some of the lessons that you have learned as well. Adik, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your wisdom. And thank you to the rest of you for joining today and sharing your experiences. I love these sessions. I learn so much every time I attend one. So thank you for being part of this really lovely global learning community. Really glad to be part of it with all of you.
Thank you very much, Ellie. Really appreciate.
Thank you. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie.
Very much. Nice to meet you.
Very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.